Yo, what's shaking, everybody? It's Geoff Ketchum, Anwar Richardson. It is a Monday overreaction show here on the Orange Bloods Texas football channel. Do us a solid. Hit the like button, subscribe. Hell, go to Orange Bloods and sign up for a subscription. There's like a $20 price tag on new subscribers right now that I don't even know how Rivals came up with that, Anwar. If I'm being 100% honest, like I saw that promotion and I was like, I don't want to show this to people. I'm not trying to give it away, but you know what? We are giving these videos away. And if you missed it, over on Orange Bloods and on social media earlier today, we announced Serenity Douglas as a new host reporter on the website. She will specifically be involved on the YouTube channel. I think you guys are going to love her. It won't keep Anwar and I from doing things like the Monday Overreaction show, but it will allow us to phase back on some of the heavy lifting that we've had to do on the video side of things on top of everything else that we're doing. Anwar, my first overreaction on this Monday is, woo! I am kind of looking forward to Serenity taking charge of the videos.
Yes. You know, you'll have her on, and maybe we'll have her do, join in kind of on the show this week before she jumps into everything. But she's phenomenal. Former UT standout track athlete, more accomplished in sports than you and I. That's for damn sure. Yeah. But the thing that she did, more so than anything else, is a compliment to her. She slayed this interview. Very impressive. Very bright. I mean, there's so many great things and positive things to say about it. And we're co-signing on her. And you guys have listened to enough videos to know sometimes we don't like anybody. and so if we are saying she's the real deal, she's the real deal. And I would just say this, and this is my bold overreaction Monday prediction as relates to Serenity. I am going to enjoy the time that she's here. I think it's a matter of a few years before somebody probably poaches her from us. And we will be very happy with her success, but I will enjoy the time that she's here. But she's definitely destined to be a star.
Yeah, my favorite part of her interview was, for those that don't know, myself, Ari, and Anwar were doing a number of interviews. And quite frankly, we liked a lot of the candidates that we spoke with. And on, I don't even remember what day it was, Wednesday or Thursday, I think we were leaning in a direction. And we had two other people do interviews that really knocked their interviews out of the park. And then Serenity showed up. And before the interview was over, Ari Temkin announces to all of us, oh, we'd be crazy not to hire you.
Yeah. Poker face gone, right?
Poker face was gone. He was like, I don't even know what to say other than we would be crazy not to hire you. And yeah, I can tell you it's rare that Anwar, myself, and Ari completely agree on everything all the time. Like, we haven't even known each other as a trio that long, but usually sometimes it's difficult to get 2 out of 3 of us to agree on something. And we all felt this. It speaks to how great we all think Serenity is and how great we think she's going to do on the videos. That she literally, it was a Jerry Maguire moment. She had us at hello, and that we all 3 felt that way. We bottled that up. I wonder when that happens again, when all 3 of us on the exact same topic see it all exactly the same way. Anwar, that leads us to our Overreaction Monday conversation. You and I, we mix it up a lot of times on Mondays, and some days we see it exactly the same way. So lead me off on a Monday Overreaction show. And if you missed it, we had a Saturday reaction video that just got published today. So you're actually going to get 2 Monday content items from us today. But is there anything to overreact from that we haven't already reacted to?
Well, you know what? No, but I think we would be doing a disservice to ignore the quarterback conversation, right? And I get it. We can overreact to a lot of different things, but sometimes you got to keep it simple, and sometimes you got to keep the main thing about the main thing. I kind of wrote about this, in my column on Sunday, and you've touched on it as well in your column on Sunday night. If you're not on Orange Bloods, you need to get on so you can read some of these things. I think this is the defining week / moment for Casey Thompson in his Texas football career. Some people might say that's hyperbole, but here's what we know. We know that Steve Sarkisian wants to give the starting quarterback 2 weeks to prepare for Louisiana. We also know that Louisiana is a damn good team. This is not a slouch. This is not coming in and you're saying this is a tune-up game. This is Rice of some sorts. Like, you can go ahead and work your way through it. Louisiana is coming in with a bunch of grown-ass men, and they're coming here on the mission. And so you've got to give your quarterback 2 weeks to prepare for that. And this is it. This is Casey. This is your moment. This is your Eminem, you get one shot type of thing. This is it right here, Ketch. This is the week where he has to, if he wants to win this job, he has to find a way to pull away from Hudson Card. Like, that's my overreaction is Casey Thompson. So from the time you got here, hey, you were a 4-string guy. You went into the transfer portal. You decided to sit behind Sam Ehlinger with the hopes of, for this particular week, and Casey Thompson, you've got to step up and slay it if you want to win this job. That's my overreaction, because if not, your entire future at Texas starts to become in question. How long is your leash at Texas if you win the starting job becomes in question. You've got Casey Thompson. You've got my overreaction. Casey Thompson, you want this job? Damn it, man, you got to take it this week.
Yeah, and I'm on the fence with my reaction in general, kind of to what you just said, but Sark specifically pointed to Saturday's upcoming scrimmage and basically said, look, we're going to do this again, and we'll see what happens next Saturday. There's a part of me that I would love to just be able to ask Sark, where are you from this moment today all the way to the moment that you were hired? You've had all these practices. I mean, they've had over 20 practices now with both quarterbacks. They've had spring games, and they've had, I'm guessing that's their 3rd or 4th scrimmage, not even including the spring game. What do you think? Who's your guy? Because there's a part of me that believes he has to know who his guy is. You can't have that much of a sample size and not be leaning a certain way. Forget about Saturday for a second. The scrimmage that just passed. What do you think? Who's your guy? There's a part of me that believes that has to exist. If it would be alarming from my standpoint if the next week really matters. Are they so even? Is someone not standing out enough that you truly can't make a decision? You know what I mean? Like, because at the end of the day, we just made a hire with Serenity Douglas. And you know what? We considered hiring some other people. Other people were talented. When push came to shove, it wasn't really close. We could say it's close. I think, and I think that happens. I think when you have to make decisions, rarely do. I feel like the worst decisions I ever make in life are the ones where it's like, oh God, I just don't know. I guess I'll make my decision based off what happens today and today. It's such a dangerous thing to do, to like put yourself into a position where this is the biggest decision. Sarkisian has called it the biggest and toughest decision of his career. It could determine recruiting momentum in the next 12 to 24 months. It will determine largely how this season goes. When we looked at Herman, we pointed to his offensive coordinator hire as the thing that may have tripped him up from the very beginning. I think with Sarkisian, it's the quarterback decision. And there's a part of me that wonders, what happens on Saturday if the guy that he wants to start isn't the best guy in the scrimmage? I don't know. Like, I'm fascinated by where we are. And I wonder what the snap workload looks like with the first team during the spring. That just came out wrong, but during the spring, Thompson got the majority of the reps with the first team. And Card, and so much so that in the spring game, he got exclusive first team reps and Card got exclusive backup reps, right? It was the reason why you said I'm picking Casey Thompson, because my eyeballs tell me they're treating him like the starter. But it's 50-50-ish now at this point in camp. And I wonder if this week in camp that changes at all, because as you mentioned, they're 19 days away, Anwar, from playing Louisiana. At some point, the guy you're going to start has to be the guy you're going to start, because you don't have a layup in the opener. And as we said on our Saturday show, the vibe that Sark gave out on Saturday was, if our offense plays like that against Louisiana, we take an L. And it just made everything feel more serious all of a sudden.
It's very serious. And, you know, it's an interesting thing because Sarkisian is a former quarterback, right? So he understands, okay, this is what I need in order to be successful. He was just at Alabama, right? Where he's had back, so he understands, like, this is the level of play I need, and this is what I need to see in practice. And the fact that he was befuddled that it looked great in all the other practices, it didn't translate in the scrimmage, was concerning. You know, it was concerning to him for sure. It's concerning for us. And, you know, I look at Casey Thompson, Ketch, and I look at a guy that, you know, to his defense, he's had multiple offensive coordinators. You know, he's gone from Tim Beck to Tom Herman, which wasn't really a huge transition, but, you know, different guy, to then Mike Yursich to this situation here with Sarkisian. So he's had different OCs that he's had to work with. And, you know, so there's a part of me that wants to say, man, Casey, you should be blowing this guy out. But there's another part that I have to keep it real and say, okay, to be fair, this is a new offense for him. It's not like he's been in Tom Herman's system for 3 to 4 years and is now struggling against, a young quarterback. All things are somewhat equal. But that being said, Casey Thompson designed everything so he can graduate early and have these extra years of eligibility remaining. So if things don't work out in Texas, he can go somewhere else. This is his plan. Okay, so this is because this was his plan. This is because we outlined this, because he was working hard behind the scenes. Okay, now you've gotten to see the fruition of this plan. Like you've got to be able to go ahead and solidify this job and be able to win the starting position. And so this week in practice, it is not only the practice got to be good. I think what Sarkisian is almost saying, Ketch, I know what you guys can do in practice, but I need to see what happens on Saturday. Like the live bullets is what I need to see from you guys. All right. And I think Sarkisian looks at practice on Monday and all the other days this week and says, all right, that's cool. Show it to me on Saturday. If you show it to me on Saturday, then whoever he has in his mind, whether it's Casey, whether it's Hudson, whoever he has in his mind, I think he says, all right, I feel better about it. I don't know the scenario, Ketch, what happens if Saturday comes and goes and he's underwhelmed again. Now, that's the thing that we haven't talked about. We haven't prepared ourselves for what happens, because scrimmage number 3, Ketch, is supposed to be kind of a mock game. It's just, that's what he wants. He's outlined. I want it just to be how a season opener would be, hotel rooms, things like that. He wants to get them ready. So scrimmage number 2 is really it. That's when we're talking about recording on a Monday. Whenever you guys see this, that Saturday is that's it. And then it's over. I don't know what happens if he's not happy.
This is going to end up just being a quarterback show, isn't it? Because I still have so many things to say. Can we just talk about Casey for a second?
Yeah.
Casey has a very interesting emerging reputation, which is, look, man, he balled out in the Alamo Bowl. I mean, we can talk about practice all we want to, but in the 30 minutes of game time that he got in a bowl game against an actual Division I team, the lights came on and he was a different guy. What we had heard from the Texas coaches that departed was that dude that you saw in the Alamo Bowl, that isn't who we saw in practice every day. And if that guy had been the guy in practice we'd seen every day, what are we talking about, right?
Yeah.
But even the old staff, before they got kicked to the curb and Sarkisian comes in, had a little bit of, I don't know that they viewed Casey Thompson's performance as fool's gold or what, but they weren't wowed by it. They didn't come out of that game like you and I did thinking that's a game changer. And I think it goes to the fact that Casey Thompson, it's like in that movie Over the Top when Sylvester Stallone would turn the hat around, and then he becomes a different person. Casey Thompson did that in the bowl game. What I wondered about Casey Thompson in this entire quarterback battle, could he channel this thing that he did in the bowl game and do it in practice? And I think the answer at this point is no. And I think that it's the real big conundrum. And it doesn't mean that Casey Thompson's not a great player when the lights come on. It means that in order for a coaching staff to volunteer him to be their starting quarterback, it takes a leap of faith that doesn't get rewarded day in and day out when you see them, right? It's this idea that when the lights come on, he'll be there, he'll show up. The last two big event moments, and we talked about this on Saturday, and we won't completely go over it all over again, but it is in our other video that we did breaking down the scrimmage, which was, this is 2 consecutive scrimmages now, if you include the spring game, where I think Thompson has a chance to put a marker down and say, this is my team. And he didn't do it. And that's didn't happen on Saturday, didn't happen in the spring game. At some point, and the reason why I've always kind of favored Card is because I've thought Card day in and day out in practice will outperform Thompson, because that's what he did last year too. Day in and day out, they thought Card was better. And I thought he'll do it again in practice and a new coaching staff will see it. And I don't know that that's completely happened, but what I know is that Thompson, if we took the Alamo Bowl out of the equation, what are we talking about? Right now, we're talking about a guy struggling in scrimmages and struggling somewhat in the spring game. Maybe that's too strong of a word, but it wasn't a powerhouse performance by any stretch. Like I said, I'd love to pick Sarkisian's brain on truth serum on Casey Thompson, because I'm guessing he's a complicated guy to kind of put your thumb on, because he just hasn't captured that bowl game thing in scrimmages and in practices. And he kind of has to at some point. If you're going to win the job, they have to see that version of him. And it just doesn't feel like that's happening.
It's interesting. Does Casey Thompson have to win the job? Does Hudson have to win it? It's like, it's interesting, question, right? Because we're talking about Casey but then, what does Hudson need to do? Because Hudson himself, right, hasn't been a guy that stood out. I mean, Hudson, if he goes out, we mentioned this when we recorded our last one, if Hudson goes out and balls the way that we've heard he's balls, if he balls on Saturday, it might be game over.
They both missed a big chance.
Yes, they both of them did. Both guys had an opportunity and both of them missed it. And so for Hudson, it's like, okay, dude, you too, sir, must step up. You too must do it. I got a question for you.
Yeah.
As we record this on a Monday, and it's, I'm looking at my phone, it's August the 16th. What's your prediction? Right now, who do you think wins the job?
I think Hudson Card's going to win the job.
Does that still stay with Casey?
I just think Casey, this thing has gone from Casey getting all the first team reps. Now it's 50-50. And at no point along the way has Thompson surged. Feels like he's hanging on. That God, just don't let Hudson have what we just talked about, which didn't happen on Saturday, was a difference-making deal. I think for me, I think the thing that stands out, I think Hudson Card's upside, I think everybody thinks for the most part that Hudson Card's upside is really, really high. I mean, my God, the last coaching staff, some coach on that staff used the word Aaron Rodgers to describe Hudson Card in an article with The Athletic. Come on, guys, slow down, right? A little bit. But I think people get his talent. I think you can get intoxicated by it. The difference between these two guys right now, and it's interesting. I talked to Xavier Worthy. You talked to Jordan Whittington. Both of them had told us, and it feels like it's honesty coming from them, that like it's not that big of a difference for them. I asked Xavier the same question last night in our interview, which will be out on YouTube later today. Just kind of like, hey, when one quarterback's in and then another one comes in, does it change anything for you? Like, is one guy's ball easier to catch for you than the other guy? Or is the spin on the ball? You know, I'm just trying to find out from his perspective what's different. And Xavier Worthy may have taken the company line that they've been coached to say, but Xavier doesn't come across to me as like a kid that's coached. He's very natural. And like, he told me like, hey man, at this point, I can't tell the huge difference in the two. Like for me, they're both good. I don't feel like the offense really changes. And I was like, okay, well, I'm waiting for someone to tell me otherwise. But when you talk to people behind the scenes, there's a sense that Casey's been more of a check down safety guy, and that Hudson's been a guy that's ripped it down the seams, gone a little bit more vertical, which is a little strange because I think you think Casey right now, from what you've seen, throws a better deep ball than Hudson. Yeah. But it sounds like that's not happening in scrimmage situations or in 11 on 11 or 7 on 7, that Casey is doing a little bit of the Shane Buechele thing from 2017, 2018, right? He kind of plays in a phone booth where he's throwing a lot of underneath stuff. It's and not necessarily trusting his receivers down the field. Whereas from what I'm hearing, Hudson takes a few more chances, lets it rip a little bit more, gives his receivers a little bit more latitude to make plays by going to them. What do you think? If those are correct, those portrayals, and neither guy's turning the ball over a lot. What's more valuable? The guy that is willing to take a little bit more of a chance, or the guy that's a little safer and kind of played a little bit of Sam Ehlinger ball yesterday? If you watch that Indianapolis game, Sam doesn't rip the ball with the most impressive NFL throws that you've ever seen, but he can work a team down the field, and it's a lot of receivers and tight ends underneath and occasional shots. And I don't know, it feels like the two guys actually are more different than people want to talk about, I guess. Yeah.
So we're at the point of the video where I'm about to get frustrated because everyone tells us that we have to keep our videos short, and you and I like talking. And so I want to keep going and talking, but then I know it's going to be spliced up into two things, and it's gonna, I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to just keep talking. I'll let the people who edit do what they do. That's my overreaction. I just wish you guys would let the damn video play. Okay, never mind. But I understand that. I understand why it needs to be done. It's it's hard for me to negate with everything that you're saying, Ketch. It's hard for me I still go back to, they open up against a real team. They're a real opponent. And I think the tiebreaker in this one has to be, give me the guy with the most playing experience that I can start off with, and let me take the safe bet and hope my defense plays well, as opposed to taking the guy who might be a little bit risky. I don't know if you want to do that versus Louisiana. I think that's a tough game. I think that's a game that you come out, if you win that game by 7 points, you should be happy as a Texas fan. You won't be happy, but you should be definitely happy. And I think you've got to go, even though Casey, we view him as a veteran in some regards, but he hasn't played that much. He hasn't played a ton of games where you're like, oh man, like this, he should be this. But I still think you got to take the safer bet. I still think you've got to go with that. Now, that being said, I don't know how long his leash is going to be, Ketch. And if he goes out and starts out slow against Louisiana, I don't know what Sarkisian does at that point. As a former quarterback, does he say, I got to let this thing ride and I got to give my guys some time? If it starts out slow, does he say, you know what, let me throw in Hudson and see if this sparks the offense? I'm not quite sure, but that's for me, Louisiana is just too good for you to just throw out a guy with Hudson who has just limited playing ability, who's done it in practices, hasn't done it in scrimmages. To me, if there's a tiebreaker, give me the guy that I've seen at least do something in a game and hope that the lights come on when I need it to, as opposed to the guy that I've never really seen it do it in a game and hasn't done it in a scrimmage.
How safe is Casey if not once Sarkisian has seen the guy from the bowl game? And at that point, it's like one of those, who am I to believe? You or my lying eyes? My thing was Sark, and as we continue to talk, I think I'm feeling more and more emphatic that it's going to be Hudson Card that starts. This thing, that all the momentum's against Casey. I mean, he's 50-50 with reps right now. It's interesting. You talked to somebody last night that thought it might be 55-45 for Casey ahead of Hudson. And Jason talked to somebody last night that felt like it was 50-50, but if anybody was losing reps to a third teamer to come in and rotate in or whatever, that it was probably Casey losing those reps. It's really close.
Sure.
It wasn't close really 6-7 days ago. Like, as this thing has gone on, it's getting more and more 50-50. And I don't know. I'm waiting for Casey Thompson to do something. And it's not good that, look, I'm not impressed by the check downs and the tosses to the tight ends and the safe throws. I think this is a Texas offense. Sark is a guy that does not want 10-play drives. He wants big explosive plays. He knows, he's talked about this. It's hard to go 10 plays down the field and score a touchdown without screwing up somewhere. It's much easier as an offense if you can score in 4 plays than it is in 10 plays. And it feels like, and this was my knock on Sam, and what's weird about this is not who Casey was in the bowl game. In the bowl game, what was so exciting about him was that he did rip it down the field, that he did like target receivers and vertical threats and through, I thought it was incredible in the bowl game. That doesn't materialize itself in practice. And I just have a hard time knowing that Sark went inexperienced over minor experience. And the only other time he was in this position in his career when he put the ball into Matt Leinert's hands. I just don't see Thompson winning this job. He could be. He hasn't been, though. He's not winning this job. It almost feels like if he starts, it's you don't want him to transfer, or you're a little unsure with both. And he's the safe option at this point in a fairly scary game. It is a bit concerning that he's not getting Luke Brockermeyer reports, right? Every day, it's like, oh my God, Luke Brockermeyer did this and had an interception. And you're like, Luke Brockermeyer's having himself a camp. I just haven't sensed that Casey Thompson's having himself a camp. And
I haven't sensed that about Hudson Card.
I've
heard nothing. I've heard nothing that anyone said that Hudson Card has been lights out.
Neither have been lights out.
Correct. So I mean, it's one.
The difference between the two is that Card throws the ball down the field and doesn't turn the ball over while doing so. And it sounds like if we eliminate Saturday, it seems like one of the things that both quarterbacks have been doing is not turning the ball over. even if one guy is a little more dangerous with the ball in terms of he's going down the field. Saturday, Thompson turned the ball over. And Card, in Sark's own words, did not. If you're going to turn the ball over and be conservative, I'm going to take the guy who's not turning the ball over and is a little less conservative. I guess it comes down to what kind of cereal you want to eat, right? But for me, I feel like Card ticks more of what Sark wants in all his boxes. And I haven't seen that change. Maybe it can this week. I mean, it'll be interesting to see the narrative of practice this week. And we get to see the Wednesday practice. That's fascinating to me, Anwar. They're going to let the media and they're going to let the public in to watch an entire full pads practice on Wednesday. Usually coaches that haven't made big decisions, usually they don't do that. It was when I first heard about it yesterday, it made me think he knows who his quarterback is. But, you know, it also makes me think that by then you'd start giving that guy starters reps and really start 19 days away Onward, 19. Like that first game against a really good team, it's not Rice. So it's right around the corner. I wonder, can you wait until next Monday to give one of these guys 70% of the reps? Would you really go 50-50 all the way through the opener? That maybe I would do that if I was a quarterback that wasn't, or a coach that wasn't a quarterback. But I think one of the best points you've made in this entire video is Sark's background as a quarterback. He's going to know what it is that he thinks he would have needed as a starter when he played. And I have to think he wants to give that to his guy. I'll just say what I said earlier. We can wrap up on this. I think it bodes poorly for the team if he doesn't know yet.
So I'll say two things. I think he's got to know. And at this point, it's just a matter of when the trigger is going to be pulled. You know, at this point, still, unless something changes, Casey Thompson is, even if it's 55-45, it's still Casey's job. You know, he's still the starting quarterback. He still has the job until told otherwise. And so unless the reps change dramatically, we'll see, what happens. Like I said, I'm going to stick with my KC bet. And the last thing from an overreaction, and you mentioned it before, in total shifting gears, attaboy for Sam Ehlinger. I mean, good for him. Good performance. It was. I don't know what was. I think the thing that you were talking about overreaction. Tariq Black was catching passes in the preseason game for the Colts. I'm like, Tariq Black, he caught 10 all of last year, something crazy like that. And Tariq Black actually was getting open and catching passes with the Colts, where I was like, man, holy crap. I get it. So at one point, I saw Malik Jefferson playing the majority of the game. And I was like, man, maybe this is a good spot for Malik. I think there was an injury that allowed that to happen. But props to Sam, he threw an interception early, and I was like, oh, that was not a good one. And I wasn't quite sure what it's. And he came back and looked good. And the biggest thing for me for Sam is just make the 53-man, right? Just make the 53-man roster. And whatever happens past that, great. But get your money. And so I saw a guy that will make the 53-man roster. I didn't see a guy that you can try to sneak on the practice squad and hope he clears waivers. It's hard to find good quarterbacks in the league, hard to find good backups. And, so props to him. I hope it works out for him in Indy. They have a good owner with Irsay out there, great city. So I hope everything works out for him. That was just say, attaboy, Sam, you look good.
Can I keep it 100 just a little bit?
Okay.
I thought Eason looked better than Sam did yesterday. And I think that although it sounds like Eason's had a weird, funky camp, but you can see why they like him. His ability to kind of rip the ball and get it down the field. And he's just got more of a pro body, pro arm. I was a little concerned that Sam's such a dinker and a dunker. And he completed a big pass down to the 1 yard line. So I don't want to say make it act like that's all he did.
He played 2 big passes, actually.
I may have missed one. I'm thinking about the one that's set up. I guess
there was the one, and then that's the same drive before that. I think there was the black catch that was before that. There was like a 30-yard or something like that. So he had two pretty good ones.
No, look, he had average over 10 yards an attempt, which in the NFL is really good. I think at some point, though, Sam's going to have to make more downfield throws. And, you know, the game kind of yesterday looked like an NFL preseason game in the third and the fourth quarters. You know, those games just feel a little different. It's like watching the MLS after you've watched the Premier League all day long. You're like, oh, it's professional. But you're like, it's not quite the same thing. I want to see if Sam gets any first-team reps in this next preseason game. I don't think Eason did anything to lose his positioning based off of what happened in that preseason game. But I'd like to see Sam get something that feels a little more actual NFL-ish and not he might be the best player on the field of a bunch of guys who won't make the teams. But it was a really good first step for him to go from that first interception, which was a bad throw. I mean, that will get you cut in the NFL. To recover from that and to basically, he had the best rookie quarterback performance of any of the rookie quarterbacks that played this, maybe outside of like Justin Fields. Like I saw Trey Lance's numbers and he was like 5 of 14. And I was like, it put some perspective on what Sam did. And that if you look at it through the right prism, he performed really well against his peers that all made their first performances as an NFL player in a preseason game. I just want to see Sam do it with more legit guys. And he looked like the captain of the illegitimate guys yesterday. It was like, okay, let me see what he looks like with some dudes who are going to play on Sunday.
Sadly, I look at Sam as a career backup.
Right.
And some people view like that's an insult. I don't view it as an insult. If you could be a McCown and collect checks for 10 years, 15 years, whatever the McCowns are probably doing, it's probably still in the league. If you could do that, if you could be a Josh Johnson, if you could be a Jason Garrett, right? It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to say, hey, you're in the league for 10 years and you're collecting $2 million a year, $3 million a year, have a chance to start. So for me, I'm okay with what he did because he is a backup at this point, right? And so you've got to excel against the common ground, and he excelled against common ground. And I again, Sam would probably hear this, and people probably hear this, and they probably say, "Oh man, I think he's going to be a starter." Maybe. But if you can collect checks and collect a pension in the NFL, you're doing something. So for me, I think it was great. Irsay was talking during the broadcast. They seemed to like him a lot.
He kept saying Montana and Brady every time they talked about Sam. And I just was like, slow down.
He's got their attention. Like this is what you've got to do if you're going to be a backup in the league. This is what you do. You come in the second half, you score a couple of touchdowns or look pretty good, and then you collect a check for the entire year. Like that, you've just got, and especially now in today's NFL where you only got 3 preseason games, all you got to do is just look good at like 2 of them. Do
the hard part. He's already looked good in 1.
Yeah, he's only got to do 1 more.
Now he's just got to flip a coin and hope it lands on heads once. I think that the thing you and I both agree with, and then we can wrap it up after this, at least I'm good. He's put himself into a position where the Colts likely know. And part of this is because the Colts have been talking him up so much. Yeah. He won't make it through cuts. If the idea is let's waive him and sign him to the practice team, which probably 50-50 that's what they were thinking coming into camp. If with a healthy Wentz, not every NFL team carries 3 quarterbacks. The fact that they haven't signed an older guy is a good sign for Sam, because the moment the older guy comes in, it's like, whoa, wait a minute. They got Phillip Rivers, they got Wentz. Now he's got to beat Eason out to make the team. But right now, it looks like they're going to carry both Eason and EHLINGER. And just because the Colts have no choice, if they waive him, somebody will pick Sam up based off of what he's done so far. And boy, the Colts would look silly at this point to release that guy.
Yeah.
After they've gone out of their way to build his mythology up over the course of the last week. That's not you and I being former, what we covered Sam in college. So now we're just talking about him. Mm-hmm. Like, this is all of the Indianapolis media last week talking about he's working with the ones. He's playing better than Eason. They're putting his stats side by side with Eason and showing how much better he was doing. So, Sam, on a scale of 1 to 10, Sam's got to be having a 9 camp right now. I think the only damn thing that probably keeps it from being a 10 is that pick he threw in the game, where it was like, whoa, like that was such a bad throw. Yeah. It was almost easy to be like, everything else that he's done doesn't even matter. That throw was that bad. But then all he did for the rest of the game was make that throw not seem nearly as important as it did when it happened. Keep doing it, Sam. Look, man, a 9 out of 10 camp as a late round quarterback. And that's serious work getting done. And just make the team and everything else will take care of itself.
And here's the other thing. We talked about Sam. Buechele didn't look that bad either in his preseason game. So do we weirdly have to give Charlie Strong some credit here?
Oh, don't do that. Don't. That sounds like something I would do. Throw that little grenade out into the environment, like right before we log off. Yeah, I tell you what, if both of those dudes make NFL rosters, even as, let's say, practice squad guys, because that to me, that's probably where Buechele would land. Yeah, you probably have to give a little bit of, at that point, do you know what Charlie's saying? Should just let me keep the job. I had it all figured out. You just need to let my guys grow up. He's saying, not my fault that Tyrone Swoops was there when I got there.
I mean, it's going to be interesting what this narrative looks like 5 to 10 years from now if Buechele is in the league for many years. And look, great. If you could just back up Mahomes for the rest of your life, like, God bless you. Yeah. Talk about a great job, right? And again, I look at it in perspective like, man, collecting checks is not a bad thing. If Sam could do that and be in the league, and Shane would do that in the league, and we know that both of those guys are on a Texas roster at some point, I don't even know what we're saying in videos 5 to 10 years from now.
Hell, Charlie, the misunderstood genius.
we're rewriting history if that's the case.
Hey, if you like the video and subscribed, don't unsubscribe and unlike the video just because we went down this rabbit hole in the final seconds of this show. Look, for myself and Anwar Richardson, really, thank you for watching the Monday Overreaction Show here on the Orange Bloods Texas Football Channel. We'll see you again tomorrow. Later.